Okay, so Ronan Goldberg. Hi, this is the Busy People podcast. Ronan, tell us a little about your journey.
So many parts of the journey. Which which journey are we talking about? I'm on like 7 journeys at one time.
In business or personal, whatever you want to share.
I don't know, life's a journey. I'm 42. I got a wife and 2 kids. Servant of God, man. Just trying to live life every day. Do better. Been consciously on my path of return, Choser B'Tshuva, as we might say, for 26 years now.
So, what does the CBD business mean to you?
CBD, well, it's not just CBD, cannabis in general. It's the cannabis business. That's one of many businesses. I have other things as well, but cannabis has been something that's been a part of my life for a long time. So I do have a business called Vapor Buddy that is essentially cannabis education is the main aspect of it. VAPERBUDDY.com, VaporBuddy.com, where medicine meets recreation. That's essentially the concept, is that cannabis has been a stigmatized plant for 70 some odd years in the US. It's been the most stigmatized drug, I guess you could say, out of any of them.
What have been the headaches of making some of the products that you made that I know about, and just building the brand and building it from the ground up and selling it to stores? What do you see as differences doing, online versus retail?
Well, there's a lot. I mean, for me, honestly, the main thing is that it's been mostly just on my own. So there's ups and downs to having online versus retail. I'd say one of the main ups to having online is that you save a lot of money because you're not putting in like major rent. Your rent is like your web space. You know what I mean?
So what have you seen?
However, you have to with retail, you have a spot that people can see, they can come by, they can get to. With online, you have to market yourself. My main thing I like to do is go out and do events. I don't put as much into social media and stuff like that yet. I am planning now on putting more of a push towards social media because I just got some kosher edibles which is the first ones that first edibles or anything like that I have on my website of any actual like cannabis itself. I just mostly do education and accessories and educate people about the medical benefits of cannabis. But I did get a kosher edible onto my website now because I'd like to help. There aren't many kosher edibles out there, and so I'd like to help get some out to the Jews.
What do you see as the different products, accessories, versus just what inspired you to get into the CBD world? I mean, where in your life?
To get into cannabis and everything as a business, I was originally inspired by a friend of mine who lives in Israel, where he was getting into vaporization of cannabis flower, which is essentially using, instead of people smoking cannabis flower, they can vaporize it at lower temperatures and get all the cannabinoids and other medicinal compounds that they need out of the plant without actually creating carcinogens. And so he was doing that, and I kind of jumped on with him. And then we did a course in Israel about 3 years ago. I did a course for pharmacists and lawyers, essentially, that was geared towards cannabis education. The course itself was really for medical cannabis in Israel, because in Israel, cannabis is medicinal specifically. It's not recreational.
What's the difference between medicinal and recreational from cannabis? And just where, because you've jumped into so much, what do you think ADHD has to do with the marijuana space and legalization today? Because we have so many different laws here in America, especially throughout the U.S. Where do you see the legalization going for this stuff?
So as far as ADHD goes, ADHD is so varied that cannabis can have such varied effects. So I can't speak on it specifically to that because that's a whole thing in itself. But as far as legalization goes, the medicinal properties, a lot of the medicinal properties of cannabis come in, as you were talking about before, CBD, CBN, CBG, some of these cannabinoids that don't so much get a person high as one might normally consider getting high, which would be like affecting their mental state. A lot of the cannabinoids, like CBD for example, affect the body but don't really affect the mental state. There is a high in it as much as there is in any other muscle relaxant that one might take, or as there's a high in any painkiller one might take. Like Tylenol technically also gets a person high in the fact that it stops their pain. So CBD helps in things like that. CBN helps in things like sleep. CBG helps in various other nausea, things like that. There's so many compounds in the cannabis plant, and we're still just researching it. So first, tons of research. 10 to 20 years of research is going to change the game. Now that making it medicinal, like for example getting it to Schedule 3 in the US, has made it available to be studied by researchers, schools, etc., which it hasn't been able to do, so that's a big step in the process.
And I didn't get an answer from the legalization of it used to be very small amounts. Today most states do allow weed.
About half the states are recreational, and then like 23 states I believe are recreational, 7 or are medicinal, and 17 or something are like recreational, and then there's like 10 that are kind of like on the fence. Texas for example is sort of medicinal but not really. It's like BS medicinal but really it's not. There's also pharmaceutical companies and stuff that are getting involved. So obviously politics and money plays a big hand in it. So Texas legislation has, even in its own state legislation, you're having fights between people who want to go against the federal legislation and make harsher laws than even the federal laws currently, because they're backed by certain monies and certain,
And what does money have to do with packaging and costs from your products to buy and sell?
For me personally, nothing, because I don't deal with most of that. Like I said, I've stuck away from most of the actual cannabis itself.
What have you done? You've done accessories.
I mostly deal with accessories. And accessories have like zero laws.
What's the cost to make of an accessory?
That depends. I mean, I get some accessories I get from China, and the cost to make those is my costs are way lower for those. Those I distribute, and then some accessories
Are you making stuff here in America?
Not really. The only things I have in America really right now are artists themselves. Like I have blown glass, like this marble right here was blown by an artist out of the States.
Very cool.
And so like a lot of my glass is mostly from the States and Canada. Like that's where actually all my glass, I think. My glass that's like hand blown by what I call my signature artists. Stuff from, but my real main glass.
And what are the margins of selling accessories from the wholesaling part? Obviously, I understand that retail has less margins, but a wholesale and an investor.
Other way around. Retail, generally speaking, has greater margins. So here's how margins generally work in this industry, right? So retail generally buys things at half cost and then sells it at full cost. What's called the MSRP, the manufacturer's suggested retail price. Now, any RP retail or any SRP suggested retail price is just that, a suggested retail price. Some companies hold more tightly to their SRPs, and some companies hold less tightly to it.
And is that doing any product? Let's just say the restaurant you're working now, like, is that also like they have a suggested retail price? It's not based on the specific product. Is this across the board in anywhere they sell manufactured products?
Finished product.
Any finished product.
I mean, because like in a restaurant, you're making food, so the food is the finished product. So the retail price is theoretically whatever you say it is. In that case, but you have to take into account all the costs,
all the goods,
all the different, like you have 20 different things that can go into a hamburger, for example. So you have to. It's a totally different thing. But when you're talking about what I'm doing, any sort of when you're talking about a car, when you're talking
I mean,
about
you're
a
doing
hammer,
that also. You work for Ashkacha.
Yeah,
And where
but-
do you see the pros and cons? Where do they go together? Like
the restaurants are
'cause-
totally different monsters.
No, I understand. But
Restaurants,
like,
no,
where,
restaurants are like it's a completely different.
No, but is
thing.
it like edibles have Ashkacha? Like, where do
Yeah,
you
but
see the
that's something
Ashkacha
else.
game from?
So the Hashkacha game is something totally different. I also do certification, and that's something I'm getting into now as well. To a heavier degree of certification. The thing about certification is this: right now, very few kosher certification organizations will certify cannabis because it is not federally legal. When cannabis eventually becomes federally legal, and that will be probably in 5 to 10 years, max 20, but 5 to 10 years really. 5 if people get their act together, 10 if they don't.
where do you see? Where
Then
do you
you'll
see
see
the,
some bigger ones. But right
where
now
do you
you got
see
a
the
few
AI?
companies.
Where do you see the AI going into the basically different things?
I don't know. AI is. We won't know. You can't really say for now because AI is still in its super baby phase. You have to wait at least 5 years before we can truthfully. Anyone who talks
Is
about
there
AI
any research going into what's being made today? Anything?
research with cannabis, yeah, but not using. I doubt using AI. Maybe there's
Robots?
some AI.
Anything robotics?
Research is being done by people because people need to do the research because a lot of the research is done in the actual grow operation. A lot of the research is done. There's lab stuff and maybe they're using AI. If they're using AI, they're using it for computation purposes.
And then like,
You know?
what's been your journey? If we can go back for a second. What's
I
been your journey within life? Today you have a wife and 2 kids. You live here in Texas. You lived in other parts. You lived in Israel. You lived all over the world. Or you lived in different parts of the world. What's been your journey like to get to here in mindset? And what do you recommend to a guy like myself? And what do you say about medicines? You obviously didn't just land in Ashtacha or any of these fields as an open mind guy. Like what has been your thoughts? Just trying to learn from you in medicine that goes to CBD, if I can ask.
I mean, life's a journey. And the idea is that the journey itself is the most important thing. We have goals, right? We have destinations we want to reach, but the goals that we have and the destinations we want to reach, for the most part, are not the actual important thing. They're just the guideposts. The important thing is to know that we have to constantly push forward, and that it's gonna be rough. You know, it's like life itself. A real metaphor of life is like working out at the gym. Like people don't realize how much the gym itself is actually kind of meta for life, because everybody, I think, hands down, when they think about working out at the gym, they think about muscles burning. They think about, like, people will know the saying, like, no pain, no gain, feel the burn, etc. Like, everybody knows and expects that if you go to work out at the gym and you're not, like, sore afterwards, you didn't really work out at the gym.
But isn't there pain part of life? But I'm saying is,
yes, that's the
but
point.
living in different places, like, different people grow up different ways. Like, what's been
100%.
your upbringing? Obviously, you didn't just. You have a very.
I have a plenty of trauma in my life. We all have trauma. You know, I got some cool trauma stories. Thankfully, I lived a life of. Most of my trauma comes not from malicious intent.
But it comes
So-
from family and friends in Israel?
I
Or
mean,
do
no, I mean,
you, do you think it's your upbringing?
or
do you-
rather, let me say, most of my trauma doesn't come from malicious intent towards me. Let me put it that way. So, like, I for the most part have not had to suffer from trauma that's been directly towards me. It's been suffered from trauma directed towards other people that has then affected my life and my situation. You know, my parents separated when I was young, for example, and any separation of parents is a traumatic thing. I have, you know, I mean, I had kind of a depression I lived in depression about from the age of 12 to 15, give or take. And then when I was 15, I was blessed by God to wake up from my depression, kind of just snap out of it, light
How
switch
did you wake
moment.
up?
Because like I said, I did. I woke up and I woke up. Like Hashem blessed me with a light switch moment, as I call it. I just all of a sudden I woke up one morning.
And where were you from 0 to 15, if I can ask you?
I was at like 15. Oh, where? What do you mean?
Where you living?
So from 0 to 8, I was in Philadelphia. I'm third generation Philadelphian. And then at 8, I moved to North Jersey with my mom. And then I lived in North Jersey till I was 20.
And then when you're 20, and you're probably double that today. So where did you live from 20 till today?
So 20, I made Aliyah, moved to Israel. And I lived in Israel from 2004 until about 2018, when I moved to Austin, Texas. And then the last 7 years in Austin, Texas, give or take, and then about 1 year now in Houston.
Right.
So.
And what do you see is the pros and cons of different Jewish areas affecting in chinuch, in your different philosophies when it comes to teaching, or different parents with their daughters, right? Daughters or sons.
When it comes to parenting and chinuch, when it comes to instilling guidance into our children, which is how I would define chinuch. I would define the real, like, chinuch has many definitions, education of the children, whatever. I would say that what is chinuch? Chinuch is instilling guidance into our children. It is teaching our children, this is the way that we approach the world. Or this is a godly way that we approach the world. Because really, at the end of the day, the true goal of chinuch isn't to make your kids like you. The true goal of chinuch is to show your kids the good ways that you approach the world and have them use those for themselves.
And where do you see social media, technology,
Social
AI,
media is
3D printing,
horrible.
robotics?
Social media is horrible. When it comes to schools and communities and this and that, listen, a community is always better than not having a community. But when it comes to schools and education, at the end of the day, whatever school your kids go to, wherever they get their education, a parent who does their job at home should have no fear when their kids leave them.
Do you find that broken homes affect the children when they're out of home?
100%, but a broken home is just a place where the parents have yet to, that's a place where the parents are broken, essentially. And they're broken to the point where they can't.
And can medicine help it? And what's your experience with medicine?
Medicine is sometimes necessary. Medicine becomes more necessary dependent upon situation more than anything, I think. For example, I was on pharmaceutical medications for a few years. I got diagnosed with ADHD about 3 years ago, maybe. At like the age of 39 or 40, I got diagnosed with it. And I've been on medication for that and depression, actually, also, for the past couple of years. But I moved out of Austin to Houston, and about 3 months went by and I had realized, or about 2 months went by and I had realized I'd been forgetting to take my medication for like 2 months and hadn't noticed. And then the third month I tested it out and realized that I just weaned myself off my medication.
So where do you see, because you've done printing images, let's go back to business for a second.
Sure.
Because where do you see the printing images and the different companies and industries you've been part of? Where do you see the world from business and integrated with family, social media today? Where do you see all that intertwining for you personally? How does a guy like myself deal with it? Yeah.
I mean, me personally, I'm at this point, like as you said, I did work in printing for a while and I worked in design for a while. My current thoughts at the moment, and we'll see. Talk to me again in 6 months, see where I'm at then. But my current thoughts at the moment is actually maybe buy a print shop or something. One that's already up and running that someone's looking to sell, and then just start doing that.
What do you say, buy a company versus starting a company? Which one what would you recommend?
It depends. Where I am personally, I'd rather buy one than start one for certain things. I have a company that I've started, and it's basically a hole in my pocket until it takes off, and I only need one of those at a time.
Right.
So
And then you would invest.
as far as buying a company, the idea of buying a company is something called the turnkey business. It's what I'm thinking about right now. Whether or not I'm gonna actually move forward with this or not. Like I said, talk to me in 6 months and see where I'm at. But the idea is that you buy a place that is already has income, and then that becomes your new job. And your new job becomes that business, and you have that income. So I'm actually looking at a few places. But the idea is, you look at them, you check the finances, you see that the finances look good.
The profit and loss statements.
You see that you can actually run the place. You know, am I capable of running
Is that
this
experience?
thing?
Is that...
Yeah, sometimes, yeah. Sometimes it's something you can learn without experience. Sometimes it's not. So, for example, printing, I have experience. So, it's a given that I could run a print shop better than I could run something that isn't a print shop.
But jewelry, you said you mentioned.
Jewelry also.
Jewelry, you have
so,
experience
for
in that, or-
example, I do have some, but not much. That would be something I would have to have more intense training on. Me personally, it also depends on the person. I personally can learn most things as long as I can observe and ask questions, and I can learn most things.
And what do you think about being curious for life? And chinuch, do you recommend somebody to deal with the regular Jewish schooling? Do you think? Because my opinion is that there's so much advancement that needs to be had with the future.
Yeah, I mean, it depends. So listen, first of all, public school. If a person's going to send their kid to public school, if a person is an observant Jew, so to speak, a frum yid, and they still want to send their kid to public school because they happen to live somewhere where there isn't, once again, one only has to worry if one hasn't done their job as a parent. If one has done their job as a parent, one shouldn't have to worry. One should have faith in Hashem and their own job as a parent. That being said, most public schools are awful at this point. If a person lives in a very high tax neighborhood where a huge chunk of those taxes goes to the education, then yeah, public school can actually be really great. When it comes to Jewish schools, if your kid has some sort of learning disability or whatnot, if your kid is ADHD, autistic, dyslexic, etc., most Jewish schools do not have the resources to deal with that.
You were blessed to find good teachers to help your daughter.
No.
No.
No. It's something that we're working through. It takes a very hands-on approach, which I personally, unfortunately, have not had the mental capacity to deal with yet. It also takes, if a school has a larger financial backing, then yes. One of the schools here in Houston kind of has some financial backing and is more prepared for that. But my daughter that needs the help more doesn't go to that school. She goes to a different school, and that school is smaller and doesn't really have that funding yet. When we were in Austin, the school was super small and funding wasn't even like a concept. So that was much more difficult, and we had to deal with all that outside of school, essentially. But yes, accommodations for dyslexia and things like that are still...
Do you have any dyslexia when you were a child?
No, I have ADHD, but I do not have dyslexia. I was blessed to be in a good public school system when I moved to North Jersey, and I skated... I don't say I skated. I treaded water through school because I was not in the right type of school system.
Because you're a business mind. Do you think that they put you down? Do you think that you had a higher purpose? If you could nail it for any guys like myself or people around the world.
For me, it was homework 100%. If I hadn't had to do homework, I would have gotten straight A's in school.
Is it because you weren't interested in the classes?
No, I loved the classes. I wasn't interested in homework.
Yeah, for me, I didn't even like the classes.
I loved classes.
I didn't like the classes, and I didn't like the people because they gave me a hard time.
No, so I love classes. I love learning. I enjoyed school. I've always enjoyed school. I can't do school as school is set up for the majority of students today.
But back to my question, like, where do you see the world going from your past? And it's very interesting because I find that the past matters to the future and the future matters to the past. Like, most people, Jewish or non-Jewish, they go from their families or friends, right? And we still think old school, but then we also do new school things. So where do you see that for your life and business and personal?
Honestly, I don't think I agree with what you said. I live in the present quite heavily. So at least for myself, I don't necessarily disagree with what you said for you. I disagree with that for me. I personally, I live very heavily in the present. The future and the past are much less relevant to me. I have to force myself and I've trained myself to make them more relevant. I would say that the past is there to learn from and the future is there to guide towards. But the present moment is where we actually exist. The other two things aren't real.
Okay, so just give me in
where we're
physical
going
realm.
though, where we're going, what's happening. It's hard to say. I don't know. I think Houston, personally, I think Houston's a booming city. I think for the Jewish community, I think it's going to grow. I think we're all just kind of... We're in a crazy, crazy time right now. Technology is insane. I personally am of the opinion that the vast majority, if not all, of the governments of the world are fairly corrupt. I'm okay with a tiny bit of corruption, but they're like overly corrupt. You don't really have like justice is a very subjective word these days, not very objective. So, I localize. I focus on myself, my family, my community, and outside of that,
Yeah, and I'm blessed to be part of it.
If I'm meant to be more important than the little community I'm in, God will make me more important.
Yeah. So,
but
can you recommend 5 books? No, actually, I have 2 more questions.
Yeah.
5 books that you read or that you would say matter to the others.
What type of books?
Anything you want to share to the world.
I mean, are you talking
to
about
myself, to others?
Things for growth, things for entertainment, things
whatever
for...
you want to give. It could be Torah ones. The last 2 people I talked to, they gave me Torah and business.
Well, let's say, off the bat, if you want really good fantasy, Brandon Sanderson is probably the best fantasy writer we have today. He's also an outstanding human being, from all I've seen.
Obviously, Chumash, you like Chumash.
Well, the Torah for sure. You can't get around the Torah. But Torah is something that should be on everyone's list at all times.
But I'm saying you're Chumash. You're a Chumash guy.
Yes.
I'm saying you also like Gemara.
I mean, I like the Sefer Yetzirah though. That's
Yetzirah.
Sefer Yetzirah.
I like the roots.
With Rabbi Nagel, I'm learning the Torah Moshe of Rav Moshe Elshich HaKadosh.
From the Alshich.
Yeah, which is the Alshich's commentary on the Torah. But that's a personal thing because I have a personal connection to that Rav. So that's
I also do
the Rav Elshich HaKadosh.
Yeah.
You have a connection to the Elshich?
Both, yeah.
Oh, wow.
I've learned it with you. But I have one more question. Where do you see physical realm and retail? Do you think retail could change at all? Where do you see? What is the research you've been doing?
First, let me finish.
Sure.
I would say there's a couple other really good books to shout out. First of all, anything dealing with Shmirat Lashon, with watching your speech, whether it's the Once a Day by the Shmirat Lashon once a day, or really anything where you talk about watching your speech and how you speak about people and what you say to people and whatever. That's probably the most important thing that we need to work on as people. Emunah is super important, but I think watching our speech is more important because that will lead to Emunah. How we treat each other. Also
what's a book for how they treat each other?
Beis Halevi Avat Yisrael, Beis Halevi Bitachon. He's good. Check out the Beis Halevi. Check out if you want to talk about manifesting and reality and stuff like that. My man Rabbi Yaakov Cohen put out a book called.
It's English. What's
It's
English
in
one?
English. It's in English. It's called Manifesting the Jewish Way, something like that. Just give me a second.
Yeah, I'm curious because I want to look that up. And then we're going to talk about retail. What is retail transition? Where you see retail and how it can be done best.
The
versus
Jewish
online.
Guide to Manifesting by Rabbi Yaakov Cohen. Definitely check out the Jewish Guide to Manifesting by
I
Rabbi
will.
Yaakov Cohen. Upon a 10-String Heart by Rabbi Yaakov Wolbe. Awesome book. And yeah, that's a good chunk of books. As for where we're going, I think personally it could be that AI robotics in 20 to 40 years is a big thing, and we talk about mass unemployment, and then we're talking about like craft worlds and people, human-made things. I think human-made things and human interaction, that's going to come back heavy. I think those are the two main things that we need to think about that in 20 to 40 years are going to be vital and important, is human-made things and human interaction.
Yeah, where can they reach you, Ronan?
I
For the general
have,
world.
I have my vaporbuddy.com, vaperbuddy.com. That's my like cannabis. That's 21 plus technically. Golden Roads. Come to Houston, hit me up. You can find my information.
Thank
out
you so
there.
much, Ronan.